I'm a corporate recruiter, and in this video, we're going to be reviewing the most famous interview scenes from movies, and I'm going to point out all the things that they did right and the things that they did wrong so that you can ace your next interview. So in this scene, Will Smith's character is arriving late to his dream job interview because unfortunately he got arrested the night before. So he's clearly not dressed for the interview and is covered in paint, which is pretty unprofessional. So there's quite a few strikes already going against him. If you were in this situation today, luckily there aren't that many in-person interviews after COVID, but if you do have to do an in-person interview and you are running late or there's some extraneous circumstances, you can just reschedule it for a better time. There is no harm in rescheduling your interview, and it does not hurt your chances, especially if this is your dream company and you don't want to bomb your interview or get blacklisted so that you could never ever get a job there again.
For the last half hour trying to come up with a story that would explain my being here dressed like this. And I wanted to come up with a story that would demonstrate qualities that I'm sure you all admire here, like earnestness or diligence and team playing to something. And I couldn't think of anything. So the truth is, I was arrested for failure to pay parking tickets.
Parking tickets?
And I ran all the way here from the Polk station, the police station.
Jay says you're pretty determined. Oh, he's been waiting out.
So right here, I want to pause and point out the importance of having a really strong referral from somebody at that company. So this person here is the one who referred Chris Gardner for this position and is very high ranking in the company, which also really helps, and has spoken very highly about Chris, which is how he's even able to get this interview for a job that he's actually technically not quite qualified for. Because really good referrals can, number one, get your foot in the door, allow you to get an interview, especially if you're doing a career switch or trying to get a new type of job, or it's going to help you get into an interview with one of the top companies in your industry. Like if you want to work at a Google or a Meta or an Apple. And another thing a job referral is really good for is if you were to potentially bomb one of your interviews, but you did okay in all the other ones, your person that referred you can speak to that hiring manager or the recruiter and try to put in a good word for you and still explain why you still may be a good fit for the role or why you deserve a second chance or another interview. And in this case, he's gonna vouch for Chris here, even though he showed up late and is not dressed properly. He's about to save him.
Outside the front of the building with some 40-pound gizmo for over a month.
He said you're smart.
I like to think so.
And there you go. That right there is a very important detail. The person that referred him spoke to, I think this is like the CEO or the president of the company, and told him how smart and intelligent he was as a person. And when you're looking to switch careers or get into a new type of line of work, the most important thing is they want to hire someone who's already a top performer at their current job and can learn things very quickly. And one of the signs of intelligence is being able to master and learn skills very, very quickly.
And you want to learn this business?
Yes, sir, I want to learn this business.
Have you already started learning on your own?
Absolutely.
And here's another thing to point out. When you're doing a career switch, you want to show them that you're dedicated and you're serious about actually making this move. So they're going to want to see proof that you've already done your research about what it takes to be successful in this new role and what are the skills that you actually need to acquire and what you're doing in the meantime to go ahead and get those skills. Now, a lot of the time you can showcase your transferable skills that you have in your current job and how it would be applicable for this job, even if it's not the exact same. So for example, if I were to switch from my recruiting position into a sales position, there's actually a lot of overlap. The main differences would just be the terminology that we use and the product that we're selling. And then also the process flow that recruiters go through is very similar to what sales folks will go through. So you can actually switch out a lot of the same terminology and use that in your interviews and on your resume. So for example, instead of sourcing candidates, I would say that I am prospecting. Or instead of screening candidates, I would say I'm qualifying leads. Or instead of hitting my hiring goal, I would say I achieved my quota.
One too many, apparently.
Is he ever dressed like this?
No. Jacket and tie.
First in your class? In school? High school?
Yes, sir.
How many in the class?
12. It was a small town.
I'll say.
But I was also first in my radar class in the Navy, and that was a class of 20.
Chris, what would you say if a guy walked in for an interview without a shirt on? And I hired him. What would you say?
Here's the moment.
He must have had on some really nice pants.
So another great way to show intelligence is with a sense of humor or to be quick-witted. And you can see here, this is exactly what Chris does in order to save his opportunity.
There's no salary.
No.
I was not aware of that. My circumstances have changed some, and I need to be certain that I'll be able to
So he ended up getting the opportunity, but basically it was an unpaid internship because they wanted to see if they could actually train him, hire him, and if he would be able to live up to the expectations and how quickly he would be able to master things in this new type of job. Unfortunately, it is illegal nowadays to hire somebody in a role and not provide any type of compensation, so you cannot try to get a new job by offering to work for free. However, what you could do is, if you know your interview is not going well, or if you're trying to do a career switch, you could offer instead to take a position at a lower level, which would be a lower compensation that you're probably forecasted or supposed to be earning given your years of experience or your current level, title, and scope of work. But if you really want to work at this company or you really want to switch careers, sometimes you have to take one step back to take two steps forward.
King's College, Cambridge. Now, it says here you were a bit of a prodigy in the maths department.
I'm not sure I can evaluate that, Mr.
How old are you, Mr. Turing?
27.
And how old were you when you became a fellow at Cambridge?
24.
And how old were you when you published this paper that has a title I can barely understand?
23.
Then you don't think that qualifies you as a certified prodigy?
Well, Newton discovered binomial.
So right away from their resume and their credentials, you can tell that this is an extremely qualified candidate, but in a slightly different field than what they are traditionally looking for. But it's pretty obvious how this person was even selected to do an interview purely based on how many things they've been able to accomplish at such a young age.
Theorem age 22. Einstein wrote 4 papers that changed the world by the age of 26. As far as I can tell, I've barely made par.
My God, you're serious.
Would you prefer I made a joke?
Oh, I don't think you know what those are.
Here, the interviewer, as you can tell, clearly has a very high sense of EQ and IQ, so they can tell that Benedict Cumberbatch's character here is probably somewhere on the spectrum or is potentially autistic. So now you have to be careful because this is a protected class when you're interviewing candidates. But for most companies, this is obviously not going to be a deal breaker, especially if your credentials are as strong as theirs.
Seems fair that that's a requirement for employment here, Mr.
Commander Denniston, Royal Navy. All right, Mr. Turing, I'll bite. Why do you wish to work for His Majesty's government?
Oh, I don't really.
This is one of the famous classic old school interview questions. Why do you want to work here?
Are you a bleeding pacifist?
I'm agnostic about violence.
But you do realize that 600 miles away from London, there's this nasty little chap called Hitler who wants to engulf Europe in tyranny.
Politics isn't really my area of expertise.
Really? Well, I believe you just set the record for the shortest job interview in British military history.
Mother says I can be off-putting sometimes on account of being one of the best mathematicians in the world.
In the world?
Oh, yes.
Do you know how many people I've rejected for this program?
No.
Well, that's right, because we're a top-secret program. But I'll tell you, just because we're friends, that only last week I rejected one of our great nation's top linguists. Knows German better than Bertolt Brecht.
I don't speak German.
This is already strike 2. The first strike is saying that he doesn't actually want to work there. And the second strike is that he doesn't meet one of the minimum qualifications for this role, which is to be able to speak German in order to actually hack and translate their code.
I don't speak German.
Well, how the hell were you supposed to decrypt German communications if you don't, well, I don't know, speak German?
Well, I'm really quite excellent at crossword puzzles.
Have a pleasant trip back to Cambridge, Professor.
Enigma.
You called for me?
That's what you're doing here, the top secret program at Bletchley. You're trying to break the German Enigma machine.
What makes you think that?
It's the greatest encryption device in history, and the Germans use it for all major communications. If the Allies broke Enigma, well, this would turn into a very short war indeed.
Here, he's managed to save himself in the interview by doing a lot of extensive research before coming in here. So here he's told the commander that he knows what the top secret project is all about, even though it's supposed to be top secret. And that's what's earned him the right to stay in this interview. And he's clearly done his research about this, which means when you're applying for your next job and you're doing interviews, you're going to want to do a ton of research about the company, its products, its competitors, and what's happening in the marketplace for that industry and what are the current trends. And then if you can take that information and incorporate it into your answers, or better yet, using that information to select the best examples to share in your interview answers, that's how you're going to be able to stand out from other candidates and show them that you're the perfect fit for the role. And as a pro tip here, whenever you start your interviews for any type of job, you should always ask the hiring manager or the recruiter to give you additional context about what this job is about beyond the job description. That way they can tell you what are the immediate projects or what are the current skill sets that the team is missing, and then you'll know what are the best examples to share and talk about so that you can show them that you have those exact requirements or have done that thing in the past, which is going to make you their #1 choice.
But you also haven't got anywhere with it. If you had, you wouldn't be hiring cryptographers out of university. You need me a lot more than I need you. I like solving problems, Commander. And Enigma is the most difficult problem in the world.
No, Enigma isn't difficult, it's impossible. The Americans, the Russians, the French, the Germans, everyone thinks Enigma is unbreakable.
Good. Let me try, and we'll know for sure, won't we?
How do you do?
All right, you got 10 minutes. You do understand that the salary is $4,800 a year less than you were making at Roth, Kane & Donovan?
Yes, I understand.
Mr. Kramer, do you mind if I ask you why you're interested in a position for which you're clearly overqualified?
I need the
And here, this person is applying for a role that he's clearly overqualified for and would need to take a pay cut. Now, sometimes you're going to need to do this, like I mentioned before earlier, if you're going to do a career switch, or potentially if you're coming back from a career break. Like maybe you took time off to raise a family and now you want to re-enter the workforce. The best way to do that is to actually take a job at one level lower than what you were doing, depending on how long you were outside of the market. And this is going to be a general hesitancy for any hiring manager right now, even today, because they're going to be worried that you're going to come in here and you're either going to be an attrition risk and leave early, or you're going to be one of those really annoying employees to manage who's constantly complaining about how they're underpaid and overqualified, even though they knew that before they accepted the job. So here, you need to find a way to convince the hiring manager to still hire you without coming across as desperate.
job.
Let me think about it. I'll let Jack know when you get in touch.
No, this is a one-day only offer, gentlemen. You saw my book, you know I can handle the work. I'm willing to take a salary cut. The only thing is you're gonna have to let me know today, not tomorrow, not next week, not at the end of the holidays. If you really want me, you make your decision right now.
Now, this obviously would never work today because companies just can't make hiring decisions like that on the spot. Maybe if you're interviewing for like a startup or something like that, but most companies have some kind of approval process to go through. HR needs to get involved. We need to put together an offer letter where there's got to be obviously a background check and things like that before you can just get a job offer. And you're also going to need to do some form of evaluation. So there's some type of paper trail in the system in case somebody wants to sue for discrimination or something like that. But here, the concept still applies, is that you want to put some pressure on that hiring manager and the hiring team in order to get your decision a whole lot faster. And you can threaten them by basically saying you're going to take another job or you're just going to move on and assume that they're not interested.
Mr. Kramer, you got yourself a job. Congratulations.
Really? Is he kidding?
Not at all. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
And why'd you ask them what time it was?
Throw him off. I mean, what kind of drug dealer asks a cop what time it is when he's got a briefcase full of pot, right?
We should hire you. Jesus, I'd give you the 25 grand as a signing bonus.
I'll take it.
Unfortunately, we only hire from Harvard. And you not only did not go to Harvard Law School, you haven't even gone to any law school.
What if I told you that I consume knowledge like no one you've ever met and I've actually passed the bar?
Right now, he accidentally started interviewing for this type of job, but this interviewer is clearly impressed by his overall level of intelligence because of his problem-solving skills and his ability to think on his feet and think outside the box. But unfortunately, he hasn't passed the bar, so he can't actually be a lawyer. But here is when he
That's a Barbary legal handbook right there, right?
Impress him by demonstrating his
Open it
skills.
up. Read me some.
Civil liability associated with agency is based on several factors,
Including the deviation of the agent from his path, the reasonable inference of agency on behalf of the plaintiff, and the nature of the damages themselves.
How did you know that?
I learned it when I studied for the bar.
Okay, hotshot. Fire up this laptop. I'm gonna show you what a Harvard attorney can do. Pick a top.
So what's happening right now is this interviewer is clearly impressed, but doesn't believe that this person actually knows what they're talking about, aka right now where there's a lot of ways to cheat using AI during your interviews. And so now this interviewer is basically going to bust out the hardest type of interview question that they can possibly think of. And usually the hardest questions are always hypothetical questions. So it's questions where you don't get to talk about an example that you've done something in the past, aka using the STAR method. So they're going to instead ask you how you would do something for them in this particular situation at this company. They're usually going to try to pick something that they know you've never actually encountered before, just to really test you and see how you would handle this new type of situation and how much you actually know your stuff.
Stock option backdating.
Although backdating options is legal, violations arise related to disclosures under IRC Section 409A.
You forgot about Sarbanes-Oxley.
The statute of limitations renders Sarbanes-Oxley moot post-2007.
Well, not if you can find actions to cover up the violation as established in the Sixth Circuit, May 2008.
It's impressive, but you're sitting at a computer.
Playing hearts.
Boom! Right there is when he basically sealed the deal in this interview. He's showing that not only can he answer the questions correctly, but the hardest question that this person could come up with isn't even difficult for them.
Sorry, if you want to beat me, you're gonna have to do it as something else.
How can you know all that?
I told you, I like to read. And once I read something, I understand it. And once I understand it, I never forget it.
Why take the bar?
This dickhead bet me I couldn't pass it without going to law school.
This isn't elementary school. This is hard work. Long hours. High pressure. I need a grown goddamn man.
You give me this, and I will work as hard as it takes to school those Harvard douches and become the best lawyer you have ever seen.
I'm inclined to give you a shot, but what if I decide to go another way?
Right there is the final test.
I'd say that's fair. And sometimes I like to hang out with people who aren't that bright. You know, just to see how the other half lives.
That's just like the scene from Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith, where he gave that really clever, witty remark that also demonstrates and showcases intelligence.
Move over. I'm emailing the firm. I just found our next associate.
So what did we learn from watching these clips? Well, number one, you want to make sure you have a really strong referral from someone at that company that you've worked with before, if possible. But this is especially true if you're doing a career switch or you're applying to your dream company. That way, they can also save you in case one of your interviews doesn't go according to plan. Number two, you want to make sure that you do your research ahead of time about the company, its products, its services, its competitors, and what's happening in the industry so that you can better choose your answers to showcase your skill set for a particular position. And number three, there's a lot of different ways to showcase your intelligence during an interview. It could be from your credentials and what's listed on your resume. It could be how quickly you've progressed in your career or how many accomplishments you've had in a short period of time. Or it could be by acing really tough interview questions. Or it could be by having a really great sense of humor and saying something really witty on the spot. But if you want to know how to properly use AI in order to prepare and ace your next interview, you're going to want to watch this video that I have right over here.